The rain is very soft, not the heavy rain that drums loudly against rooftops, not the storm rain that rushes through the river streets and fills every doorway with silver sound. Only a slow rain, a quiet rain, a rain that seems to fall carefully, as if it does not want to wake anyone who has already gone to sleep. It slips down from the dark blue sky in thin, shining threads. It touches the curved rooftops of Willow Town, gathers along the edges of old tiles, and falls one drop at a time into the narrow canal below. Each drop opens a tiny circle on the water. Each circle widens, softens, and disappears. Outside the window, Willow Town rests beside the dark canal. The stone bridge glistens faintly beneath the wet night. The lanterns hanging from the houses glow through the rain, warm and blurred, as though each little flame has wrapped itself in a golden shawl. Their reflections stretch across the water like long ribbons, then tremble whenever the rain touches them. Inside the small room beside the river, everything is warm. The stove gives a low, gentle crackle. The kettle breathes a thin thread of steam. A folded blanket lies near the window, and on that blanket sleeps Willow, the small orange cat who knows the sounds of this town better than anyone. Willow knows the sound of rain on roof tiles. Willow knows the sound of boats nudging softly against wooden posts. Willow knows the sound of an old sign swinging above the tea shop, creaking only when the wind comes from the river. And Willow knows the sound of lanterns, too. Not because lanterns are loud. They are not. Lanterns do not speak in ordinary ways. But Willow has listened for many nights, and Willow knows that every light has its own kind of quiet. Some lights are bright and busy. Some lights are drowsy and low. Some lights shine like they are waiting for someone to come home. And some lights stay awake long after all the others have closed their golden eyes. Tonight, Willow opens one eye. Across the canal, beyond the sleeping tea shop, beyond the rain-dark alley and the old stone steps, one small lantern is still burning. It hangs beneath a roof at the end of a narrow lane. Small, golden, still awake. The rest of Willow Town is slowly turning toward sleep. Windows dim one by one. Curtains fall. Teacups are rinsed and set upside down to dry. Little shoes are placed neatly beside doors. Somewhere, a baker covers tomorrow's dough with a clean cloth. Somewhere else, an old woman closes her book and lets her spectacles rest on the table. But the far lantern does not sleep. It glows through the mist like a quiet thought that has not yet found a place to rest. Willow watches it for a long time. The rain continues softly. The stove continues warmly. And the little lantern at the end of the lane keeps shining into the wet, blue night. Willow knows every light in the town. There is the round red lantern outside the noodle house, which always burns brightly at sunset, as though excited for night to arrive. There is the small square lamp in the bookbinder's window, where the pages of half-mended books glow cream and gold until the old bookbinder finally yawns and ties a ribbon around his work. There are the lamps along the bridge, each one reflected in the canal below, so that at night it seems as if there are two bridges, one made of stone above the water and one made of trembling light beneath it. Willow knows them all. The bakery lamp goes out first. The baker rises before dawn, so his window darkens early, smelling faintly of warm bread and flour. The tea shop lantern goes out next, after the last cups are washed and the chairs are turned upside down on the tables. The paper shop keeps its light a little longer. The paper maker likes to smooth the last sheets before sleep, pressing them flat beneath a wooden board, as if tucking them into bed. Then the town grows quieter. One by one the windows soften. One by one the lanterns lower their glow. And every night, after the canal has gone dark and the rooftops shine only with moonlight, there is one final light, the one hanging beneath the roof at the end of the narrow, rainy lane. It belongs to the old umbrella workshop. Willow has seen that lantern on cloudy evenings, on windy evenings, on evenings when snow rested on the bridge like folded paper. The lantern was always there, bright enough to guide a late traveler, but never so bright that it hurt the eyes. For many years, people in Willow Town said kind things about that light. They said it was good to have one lamp still burning when the river fog came in. They said it made the lane feel less lonely. They said the old umbrella maker was simply a man who liked to work late. But Willow knew there was something more. Cats often know such things. They know when a room is quiet because it is peaceful, and when a room is quiet because someone is holding a sadness very carefully. They know when a hand reaches down to pet them absent-mindedly. They know when a chair has been placed by a window, not for comfort, but for waiting. The old umbrella maker's lantern was not only a working light, it was a waiting light. Long ago, perhaps, someone had promised to return through that rainy lane. Perhaps someone had said, "Keep the lamp on. I will see it from the bridge." Perhaps the old umbrella maker had believed those words so deeply that even after many seasons passed, his hand still lit the lantern before dusk. Willow did not know the whole story. Willow only knew what the town knew in its quietest hours. The umbrella maker was gentle. His shop smelled of bamboo, paper, rain, and old tea. And every night, when all the other lights had gone to sleep, his lantern remained awake. Tonight, the rain falls softly enough to hear the thought inside a room. Tonight the lantern looks smaller than usual. Not dim exactly, just tired, as though it has stayed awake for many, many nights and has finally begun to wonder whether it might be allowed to rest. Willow lifts the orange head from the blanket. The small ears tilt toward the distant lane. The final lantern glows through the rain, and Willow understands. Tonight, someone may need quiet company. Willow slowly opens both eyes. For a little while, the cat simply watches the distant lantern through the mist. The room is warm, is soft. The stove murmurs with a sleepy sound, and the kettle gives one small sigh of steam. It would be very easy to stay where it is warm. It would be very easy to curl the orange tail around the paws and drift back into dreams. But the light at the end of the lane is still awake. So Willow stretches, a slow, sleepy stretch. One paw, then the other. The back rises like a small orange bridge. The tail uncurls gently from the blanket. Willow shakes one ear, blinks at the rain, and steps down onto the wooden floor. The room does not object. The stove keeps glowing. The kettle keeps resting. The blanket remains in its place, waiting patiently for Willow's return. At the window, Willow presses one paw to the sill and looks out. The canal is dark and shining. Rain makes the surface look like silk being brushed by invisible fingers. The lanterns reflected in the water have become long, blurred moons. Willow slips through the small cat door beneath the side window and steps into the covered walkway. The night smells of wet stone, river moss, and distant tea leaves. Willow walks slowly. There is no hurry in a bedtime story. There is only one quiet step, and then another. Past the sleeping bakery, where a faint warmth still lingers in the bricks. Past the tea shop, where empty cups wait upside down, catching the scent of jasmine and roasted grain. Past the closed paper shop, where pale sheets hang in neat rows, breathing softly in the damp air. Willow pauses beneath an awning while rain drips from its edge in a perfect line. Drop, drop, drop. Each drop falls into a small puddle and becomes part of the night. Farther ahead, the old stone bridge rises over the canal. Willow crosses it carefully. The stones are slick, but Willow knows where to place each paw. This bridge has carried many footsteps. Children running in summer, merchants walking home with baskets, travelers carrying letters, and old friends leaning on each other when the evening grew cold. Tonight, the bridge carries only Willow. From the top of it, the town looks folded and still. The rooftops lean close together. The river streets curve like sleeping cats. The rain falls everywhere, but gently, as if the sky itself is trying to be kind. At the far end of the bridge, the lane narrows. Here, the houses stand closer. Their wooden eaves almost meet above the stones, making the rain sound softer and deeper. Willow's paws leave tiny dark prints on the wet ground. The final lantern glows ahead. It is not far now. With every step, Willow can see it more clearly. The lantern is round and old, made of thin paper stretched over a careful frame. Its light is golden at the center and amber at the edges. Rain has darkened the wooden beam above it, but the lantern itself remains dry beneath the roof. Small, golden, still awake. Willow slows down even more. Sometimes, when a light has waited for a long time, it is best not to arrive too suddenly. So Willow walks the last few steps softly, one paw, then the other, until at last, beneath the final lantern, the small orange cat stops. At the end of the narrow lane stands the old umbrella workshop. Its wooden sign hangs above the doorway, moving only a little in the rain. The painted letters have faded from many summers of sun and many winters of mist, but they can still be read by anyone who takes the time. Moon River Umbrellas. The doors half open. Inside, warm amber light spills across the wet stones outside, making them shine as if they have been polished by the night. Willow stands beneath a lantern and listens. There is the rain behind. There is the canal farther away. And inside the workshop, there is the soft, careful sound of old hands moving slowly over paper. Willow steps closer. The workshop is small, but it holds many quiet things. Bamboo ribs lie sorted in shallow wooden trays. Some are pale and new, smooth as moonlight. Some are darker, warmed by age and touch. Thin paper rests in careful stacks, each sheet painted with clouds, plum blossoms, river reeds, or tiny silver fish that seem to swim whenever the lamplight moves. Finished umbrellas hang from the ceiling beams. Some are red as late autumn leaves. Some are blue as rain clouds before dawn. Some are pale cream, painted with branches so fine they look like they might sway if someone breathed too near them. The room smells of bamboo shavings, lamp oil, old wood, and rain drying slowly from the doorway. At the back of the shop sits the umbrella maker. He is very old now. His hair is white and tied loosely behind his neck. His shoulders are bent, not from sadness exactly, but from many years spent leaning over small, careful work. Before him lies an unfinished umbrella, its ribs spread open like the bones of a quiet wing. The old man holds a brush in one hand, but he is not painting. He is looking at the doorway, or perhaps beyond the doorway, or perhaps towards some night from long ago that only he can still see. Willow does not meow. Willow simply sits beneath the outside lantern where the rain cannot quite reach. The orange tail curls neatly around small paws. A few drops cling to Willow's whiskers and shine like tiny beads. For a long moment, the umbrella maker does not notice. He keeps looking toward the lane where the rain falls through the lantern light. Beside him, the workshop lamp burns low. Its flame flickers once, then steadies. On the table, there is a cup of tea gone cold. Beside the cup, a folded square of cloth. Beside the cloth, a piece of yellow paper with a pattern drawn in faded ink. Willow's eyes move gently from one thing to another. Cats understand rooms by the things people leave where their hands can reach them. This room has been waiting for a long time, not loudly, not desperately, just faithfully, like a lantern that has forgotten how to be turned off. At last, the old umbrella maker looks down. He sees Willow sitting beneath the lantern. For a moment, surprise flickers across his face. Then slowly, so slowly it seems like dawn arriving behind a cloud, he smiles. "Ah," he whispers, "a visitor." Willow blinks once. The rain continues behind them, and the workshop grows just a little warmer. Long ago, the umbrella maker used to tell visitors, umbrellas should be made slowly. Then he would smooth a sheet of paper with both hands and add, "Otherwise, rain may leak through into the heart." Most people smiled when they heard him say it. They thought he was only joking in the gentle way craftspeople sometimes do, turning work into wisdom and wisdom into work. But Willow understands. The umbrella maker was never truly speaking only about rain. In the early days, the workshop had not been so quiet. People came and went beneath the hanging lantern. Children pressed their noses to the window to watch painted fish appear on paper. Travelers ordered umbrellas before crossing the mountain road. Brides chose pale umbrellas painted with plum blossoms. Grandmothers asked for strong umbrellas that could turn aside the river wind. And in those days, there had been another pair of hands in the workshop. Willow does not know the person's name. Perhaps the town once knew it, and has since folded it gently away. But the room remembers. The second stool by the table remembers. The blue umbrella hanging higher than all the others remembers. The old teacup with a fine crack near the rim remembers. There had once been someone who painted clouds so lightly they seemed ready to drift off the paper. Someone who laughed when rain came too suddenly. Someone who stood beneath the lantern at the end of the lane and said, "Keep it lit. I will find my way back by this light." And so, the umbrella maker kept it lit. At first he kept it lit with hope. Then he kept it lit with habit. Then he kept it lit because turning it off felt almost like closing a door he was not ready to close. Years passed in the way years do in a river town. Spring brought pale blossoms floating down the canal. Summer brought warm rains and children splashing in puddles. Autumn brought yellow leaves that gathered along the bridge. Winter brought white mist and quiet roofs. Through all of it, the lantern waited, and the umbrella maker worked beneath it. He made umbrellas for people who needed shelter. He repaired torn paper. He replaced broken ribs. He painted tiny moons and river reeds and birds asleep on branches. But some part of him remained beside the door, listening for footsteps that never came. Tonight, he looks at Willow and then at the unfinished umbrella on his table. "It is a silly thing," he murmurs, though his voice is kind, not bitter, to keep a lantern awake for so many years. Willow says nothing. Willow only lowers the head slightly, as if agreeing that some things are silly and also sacred and also difficult to stop doing. The old man touches the bamboo ribs of the umbrella. This was the last pattern we planned together, he says. Rain clouds on the outside and stars on the inside, so that whoever carried it would remember that even in rain there is sky above. His fingers rest there. The lantern outside glows through the doorway. Rain threads across the lane. For a moment, the workshop seems to hold every night that has ever passed through it. All the waiting, all the work, all the quiet cups of tea, all the times the old man looked up because the wind sounded almost like someone returning. Willow steps into the doorway, not too close, just close enough. The old man watches the small orange cat settle on the floor, perfectly still, perfectly present, and something in the room exhales. Willow sits silently beneath the lantern. The rain gathers softly along the whiskers. The orange tail curls around small pools. The workshop lamp glows behind, and the outside lantern glows above, so that Willow sits between two kinds of light. One light for working, one light for waiting. The umbrella maker looks from one to the other. Then slowly, he smiles again. You have come a long way for such a wet night, he says. Willow blinks. The old man takes this as an answer. Yes, he says. I suppose some nights are like that. He lifts a cup of cold tea, notices that it is cold, and laughs softly to himself. Not a bright laugh, not a laugh that tries to chase sadness away. Only a small, honest sound, like a match being struck in a dark room. He pours the tea into a little clay pot near the door and sets the empty cup aside. Then he begins to tidy, not quickly, not as if he is finished with everything, only as if he is making the room a little easier to breathe in. He places 3 bamboo ribs into a wooden tray. He smooths the yellow paper. He cleans a brush in a shallow bowl, watching the dark ink loosen and swirl through the water like a cloud dissolving. Willow watches. There is comfort in watching someone put things gently in their places. A brush laid flat, a cloth folded once, then twice, a paper scrap gathered from the edge of the table, a drawer closed with both hands so that it does not make a sharp sound. Outside the rain keeps falling. Inside the old waiting begins to change shape. It does not vanish. That is not how waiting works. But it becomes softer, less like a locked door, more like a folded letter kept in a drawer, still loved, but no longer held tightly in both hands through the entire night. The umbrella maker looks at the blue umbrella hanging high above the shelves. I thought, he says quietly, that if I turned off the light, it would mean I had stopped remembering. Willow's ears turn toward him, but perhaps remembering is not the same as waiting. The words settle into the workshop. They settle on the table. They settle on the paper. They settle on the old teacup, and the second stool, and the unfinished umbrella with stars hidden inside it. Remembering is not the same as waiting. The lantern outside flickers gently, as though it is heard. The old man stands and walks to the doorway. His steps are slow but steady. He looks out at Willow Town, where the rooftops are dark and wet, and the canal carries pieces of golden light away in its quiet current. No one should have to stay awake forever, he says. Willow looks up. The old man looks at the lantern. Not even a light. For a while, they simply remain there together. An old man, a small orange cat, a rainy lane, and a lantern that is beginning, at last, to feel sleepy. The old umbrella maker turns back into the workshop. He does not rush. He does not make a ceremony of it. Some endings are too gentle for ceremonies. They ask only for quiet hands and enough time. First he gathers the final bamboo ribs from the table. One by one, he lays them in their tray. Then he folds the yellow pattern paper and places it inside a wooden box lined with blue cloth. He pauses for a moment before closing the lid. His fingertips rest on the box as though thanking it for keeping something safe. Willow remains near the doorway. The rain has slowed even more now. It is almost mist. It hangs in the lantern light like silver dust. The umbrella maker cleans the brush. He dries it carefully. He sets it beside the inkstone. Then he takes the unfinished umbrella from the table. Its frame opens softly in his hands. Rain clouds on the outside, stars on the inside. The painting is not complete, but it is beautiful already. Small stars curve along the inner paper, pale and quiet, waiting to be seen only by the person standing beneath it. The old man looks at the umbrella for a long time. Then he closes it, not sadly, gently, as one might close a book after reading the last page for the night. He places the umbrella in a tall clay jar by the wall. It rests there among others, not hidden, not finished, but no longer alone on the work table. After that, he moves to the workshop lamp. The lamp inside is the first to rest. He lowers the wick until the flame becomes small and blue at the base. The shadows climb softly up the walls. The hanging umbrellas become dark, round shapes above, like sleeping moons. Then, with one careful breath, he extinguishes the flame. For a moment, only the outside lantern remains. Its light enters through the door and rests on the floorboards, on Willow's paws, on the old man's shoes, on the edge of the table where so many umbrellas have been made. The workshop is not empty without the lamp. It is simply quieter. The umbrella maker steps outside and stands beside Willow beneath the roof. Together they look at the final lantern. has burned through rain, wind, fog, snow, and countless ordinary nights. It has guided neighbors home. It has shone over work and memory. It has waited faithfully long after waiting became heavy. The old man reaches up. His hand trembles only a little. Willow leans lightly against his ankle. The old man smiles down at the cat. Yes, he whispers, I know. He opens the small wooden panel at the bottom of the lantern. The flame inside bends, straightens, and glows once more, warm and round. For a moment it seems almost to sigh. Then the old man lowers the wick. The golden light becomes amber. The amber becomes honey. The honey becomes a single small bead of flame. And then the lantern goes out, not with a snap, not with darkness rushing in, only with a soft closing, like tired eyes at the end of a long day. The lane does not become frightening. The rain does not become cold. The town remains where it has always been. The bridge still waits over the canal. The rooftops still lean together. The river still carries the moon in broken pieces. And the old umbrella maker stands beneath the dark lantern, breathing slowly. After so many nights, the light is finally allowed to sleep. Willow walks slowly back to the wax streets of Willow Town. The old umbrella maker has closed the workshop door. Not tightly, not forever, just enough for the night. Before he went inside, he placed one hand against the door frame and looked once more at the lantern above him. It was dark now, and it was peaceful. Willow saw this and understood that the darkness was not an absence. It was rest. The rain has nearly stopped. Only a few drops fall from the eaves. They slide from roof tiles, gather at the edge, and let go. The sound is slower now, more spacious, as if the whole town is breathing in its sleep. Willow passes the silent tea shop. The chairs are still upside down on the tables. The cups are still drying. Behind the curtain, someone dreams of warm water and morning leaves. Willow passes the bakery. The bricks hold the faintest memory of heat. Somewhere inside, tomorrow's dough is rising beneath its cloth, patient and soft. Willow passes the paper shop. The pale sheets hang in the dark, perfectly still. In the morning they will become letters, lanterns, kites, wrapping paper, and perhaps a small boat for someone's dream. But tonight they are only paper, resting. At the bridge, Willow pauses. The canal below is dark, but not empty. It holds the reflections of clouds, the last dim windows, and one slow piece of moon. The final lantern no longer shines at the end of the lane, and yet the town does not feel less safe. It feels softer, as though one old worry has finally been tucked beneath a blanket. Willow crosses the bridge, one paw, then the other. The wet stones shine faintly beneath the cat's feet. Behind Willow, the umbrella workshop rests in darkness. Inside, the old man has likely sat down in his chair. Perhaps he has poured fresh tea. Perhaps he has looked once at the blue umbrella, once at the closed wooden box, and then allowed his eyes to grow heavy. Perhaps, for the first time in many years, he will sleep before midnight. And perhaps, in his dream, someone stands beneath an umbrella, painted with rain clouds on the outside and stars on the inside. Perhaps there are no words that need to be spoken. Perhaps there is only kindness, and a lane washed clean by rain, and a lantern that does not need to burn in order to be remembered. Willow does not know. Willow only knows the way home. When Willow finally returns to the small room beside the river, the stove is still warm. The kettle is quiet now. The blanket waits near the window, exactly where it was left. Willow steps to the cat door, shakes one paw, then another, and climbs back into the softness. Outside, Willow Town sleeps. The bakery sleeps. The tea shop sleeps. The paper shop sleeps. The bridge sleeps above the canal. The umbrella workshop sleeps at the end of the narrow lane. And above its door, the lantern sleeps too. Willow curls into a small orange circle. The tail wraps around the paws. The ears relax. The eyes grow heavy. There is nothing more to watch tonight. No light to worry over. No window calling from far away. Only rain fading into mist. Only the river breathing in the dark. Only the quiet understanding that love does not disappear when a lantern goes out. Sometimes love becomes the warmth left in the room. Sometimes it becomes the story an old hand remembers while closing a box. Sometimes it becomes a softer kind of waiting. And sometimes, when the night is very kind, love lets the light rest. So let the rain rest. Let the bridge rest. Let the old workshop rest. Let the lantern rest. And when you are ready, let your own thoughts grow dim and golden too. Softly, slowly, safely, until sleep comes, as quietly as Willow returning home through the rain.